No way I forget what you done. Forget what you done for my people. I won't forget what you done for me.
Follow. And then we get into now the latter part of the feast. We did trumpets. He called out to his bride. And he says, just as Yahshua gave in this parable, he says, you know what? It wasn't important for some to come. He says that they found other things that were more important. They said, well, I have to tend to my new wife, or I have to tend to my land, or I have to do this. He says, I tell you what, go out into the highways and the byways and compel them. Yes. Whosoever will, let them.
Yes.
So that was his call out to his bride. Because it's one thing to make a call that people have no choice and no option to obey. It's a whole nother thing when he says, if you will, come. It's an invitation. What can you do with the invitation? Accept it?
Right.
Or reject it.
That's right. Absolutely.
And there are many that reject. But if we have listened to the call and now we have made it to this time of Yom Kippur, the day which he says, in the early part of the year, I commanded you to cleanse yourself of all of the leaven, to get rid of the leaven, to search it out, to find it, and to get rid of it. Now, he says, I am your atonement. So we're gonna look deeper into this. We've read a lot of scripture already concerning this day and the things that are around it. I want to start with the understanding of what atonement is. Atonement, that word means to cover. Kippur, it means to cover. It's a covering. Okay? So now, understanding this, what is it that Yahweh says separates us from him? Sin. It says your sins have separated you from him. Right? And so if we understand that, now let's think about it. We've talked about this before. Let's think about the Ark of the Covenant. Let's talk about that Ark. Everybody remember the items that were in there. You had what? The manna, you had the budded rod, and you had what? The broken tablets. What do all three of those things have in common? The manna. Why did they have the manna? Because they complained about not having bread. You could have left us in Egypt where we had fish to our fill. We could have eaten and did everything that we enjoyed doing back in Egypt. Why did you bring us out here to die? And then when they gave it to him, he says, we don't even know what this light bread is. What is this light bread? Complaining. The budded rod. Why the budded rod? Well, what happened? Korah decides, hey, I can deal with Yahweh directly. I don't need Moshe and Aaron. I don't need y'all. I can just talk to him for myself. And I tell you what, I'll deal with them directly. We gonna get together and do our thing. Y'all do y'all's thing. We just as important as y'all. What did Yahweh do? Yahweh chose his person by using that budded rod. That's in the ark. What else? Why were the tablets, the first set of tablets, broken? Moshe comes down off the mountain and he sees the people dancing around and celebrating around this golden calf. Do we kind of see a pattern taking place here? The three things that are in the ark all resulted from some form of complaining or rebellion. But what sits on top of the ark? the lid of Kippur. The lid of atonement. It's there to hold intact that rebelliousness. So who covers us? That's what I want you to understand. Who is our covering? Who is our Kippur? Who is that which comes and sets in place a boundary by which our rebellion, our disobedience, and our misunderstandings can be held under a cover? They can be atoned. They can be held in place. So understanding this, there's this exchange that's happening. And what do we know that happened during Yom Kippur? And I believe Rabbi brought it up, but you had the scapegoat, right? The Azazel and the scapegoat, and you had the one for Yahweh and the one for Azazel. And remember that there was one that was sent away, and there was another that was killed. And the sins was pronounced on the one that was sent away to this place called Azazel. And so there's again, these things took place on Yom Kippur. We read in Isaiah 58. We looked at all of these things. We read in Leviticus 23 about afflicting one's being. And so what I want to get across, and what I really want us to understand, is the heart of what Yahweh has done for us. Number one. And number two, I want us to understand that we have to hold on. We have to hold on. Let's turn to Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 is a principle that is brought forth here. Shaul brings up. And it's not necessarily a new principle, but the wording and how he put it together makes a lot of sense. So I just want to read that. And it says, "And let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not grow weary." Now, what have I just described? All of these feasts, right? We went through, at this point, 6 of 7.
Yes.
6 of 7, plus we keep a Shabbat every week. We're observing the Shabbat every week. Every week. How close now? Let's back up just a little bit. When is trumpets? How do we know when trumpets is? Which one? 7th new moon. On which day of the new moon? First day of the new moon. When is Kippur? 10th day of the new moon. When is Sukkot? 15th day of the new moon. It's like Yahweh cut that time short. You've gone through the feast season. You got to trumpets. 10 days to get the call out, to bring your heart in, to bring your mind in, to focus, to gain some perspective. And then Yom Kippur. Y'all, 5 days until the wedding. Hallelujah. Till he takes his bride away. You can say that the wedding took place during Shavuot, but at Sukkot, he takes his bride away.
That's right.
Because he says, what? I leave you can't come with me right now, but I'm going to prepare a place that where I am, you will be with me. You will be also. This is the you will be also time.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Right.
And so why am I putting these things together? Why am I putting these things together? What happens, guys, when you do the same thing over and over and over and over again? Can you get weary?
Sometimes.
Can you get weary? Do you ever get tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again? But what else is happening? You are being programmed.
Exactly.
You are being programmed. You are being conditioned. You are being prepared.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Now, Yahshua says that the time is in the Father's hand and no one knows, right? Is he saying that to say, well, I'm just going to come out of nowhere and nobody's ever going to know it, and then I'm just going to take who I want to and that's it? Is he saying that? No. Why? Because he gave the example. He said, blessed is he who when the master returns is found doing.
That's right.
Yes.
You have been conditioned. You have been prepared. You have been set on the path. Now, y'all know I always give y'all my little city stories because I grew up in the concrete jungle. That's what I like to call it. So, in D.C., you have a major metro system between the buses and the trains, right? Tell me this. For me, we lived on Randolph Place. You go up Randolph Place to North Capitol, right at North Capitol and Randolph Place, at particular times throughout the day, the bus would come. The 80 bus. The 80 bus could take me, it could get me like to Chinatown, it could get me into Georgetown, close enough to Georgetown. I had to get on another bus to get all the way in, but it could get me some places, right? If I got on the other side, I crossed the street, I could go down the street. My best friend lived down there. I could go down there. Children's Hospital is down that way, all of that kind of stuff. What good would it be? Because my best friend, he lived close to the 96. What good would it be if I stood at the corner of Randolph Place and North Capitol waiting for the 96? How long would I be waiting?
Forever.
Yeah, forever. But how often does the 80 bus come through there? Probably every, 13, 14 minutes. It's coming through. You know, as you get later on in the day, they start to space out, and sooner or later, you're waiting 30 minutes before the next bus comes. But if you go to the place where the bus comes, what if it's not there when you get there? Do you just say, oh, well, the bus ain't here. I guess I'm just going back home. Ain't no bus.
Wait for the next one.
What do you do? Wait for the next one.
Yeah.
What if that one's full?
Wait for it.
You wait for the next one.
Yeah.
But where do you wait for it? Where it's coming.
That's right.
This is why we can't get weary. Yahweh has not given us the exact day, minute, second that he will gather his people.
That's right.
But do you all believe that in him conditioning us to keep a Sabbath every 7 days, that there's something to it?
Hallelujah.
It's gotta be. I'm telling y'all, that's a bus worth waiting on.
Yes. Yes.
Do you think that he assigns us these holy days every single year, that there's something to it? That we will be at the appropriate place, at the appropriate time, because something special is going to happen.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
We can't get upset because we waited for the bus for 3 minutes and it's not there yet. Because I can't tell y'all how many times I'm a little impatient, right? I know that. I accept that. I'm a little impatient. So when I was a kid, I would walk the bus stops. If the bus, literally, I would walk the bus stops. So if the bus wasn't there, I just walked to the next stop. And if it still wasn't, walk to the next stop. Now, every now and then, what y'all think happened? I got caught in between. I'm walking to the next stop and the bus is, and I'm like, oh. Now I'm trying to run to get where? To the next stop.
Yeah, do stop.
Y'all, we can't get weary in our well-doing. Yahweh has designed this thing to a T. We have no idea when, where, or why, but what we do know is he said be here at this time.
That's right. Right.
We cannot get weary in our well-doing.
That's right.
Because when we become weary in our well-doing, that's when we turn back and that bus goes zooming by. How many people do y'all think were faithful to keeping the Torah and faithful to everything and all of this, and then all of a sudden they just said, you know what? We've been talking about this Messiah coming for all these years. I'm tired of it. We done read Isaiah and Ezekiel and all of these prophets talking about it. We done heard about it. We read about it. We pray about it. And we haven't seen it yet. I quit. Why do you think there were so many people who did not believe that the Messiah was the Messiah? Because they quit. And so the Messiah was there in their time, walking, teaching. And they did not recognize him because they gave up.
Gave up.
Y'all, without us even knowing, our generations a long time ago gave up.
Gave up. Yeah.
We can't be weary. We have to stick it out. We got to stick with it. Why?
Hallelujah.
Because I don't know about y'all. Y'all might be perfect. I might be the only flawed individual in this room. But I need a covering.
Hallelujah.
All that stuff that's in there, all that stuff that's in that ark, I need some atonement to keep it down.
Yeah.
I need a covering to keep it underway. Why? Because when Yahweh looks upon, when he looks upon that ark, what does he see? Gold.
Yes. He sees the lid. Hallelujah.
He sees gold.
Hallelujah. Yes. Yes.
When he looks at that ark,
Yeah.
that's what we need. We need the covering. We need Yeshua's our covering.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Yes.
Thank you,
Hallelujah.
Father.
He says, I myself will save my people. I will be your salvation. I am your only redeemer.
That's what he's.
Only
That's
redeemer.
right.
So the word for afflict is anah. It's the Hebrew concordance 6031. It means to humble, to be bowed down or brought low, to bring yourself low. The word for soul or being, so it says in, and the reason I'm not going back reading all of this because we just read it, so I'm praying this stuff is fresh on your mind. The reason he said, or what he said in Leviticus 23:6 is to afflict your being. Now I know most people are saying, and me and Minister George had this conversation earlier, does that limit it to food? Does that mean that it's just me not eating for a day? Or not drinking for a day? Or not eating and drinking for a day? What am I really getting out of that? Is that affliction? The question is that the totality of affliction. We've only begun. Yahweh teaches us lessons in the physical. He uses our physical being, the matter, the things we can touch, hear, taste, smell, and see. He uses those things to teach us lessons. So what is he really telling us when he says, afflict your being? He says, anah, afflict, bring low your nafesh. Nafesh is what we became. When he breathed the breath of life into us, we became a living being. So what he's saying to us is, you bring yourself low. This is the day that you have to bring yourself low. Why? Has anybody ever tried to put, let's just say you're going on a trip and you got to pack up the lotion? Does everybody have the same dilemma that we have when you're trying to pack the lotion up? You're trying to close it so all the lotion don't spill out in your bags as you pack, right?
Right.
But what happens? What do you have to do? You got to push it down and turn it.
Turn it the right way.
Right. And what happens every time you push it down? The lotion comes out. But the point is that in order to cover most things, you bring it low. If we want to allow the Most High to cover us, we've got to do our part. Now, at the beginning of the year, what was our part? Who was getting the leaven out? We were. We were getting rid of the leaven. You were searching your cabinets. You were searching ingredients. You was looking for it, finding it, getting rid of it.
Right.
Turning around, not realizing that you left a whole thing of baking powder in the back of your refrigerator. All of this stuff, right? All of that's happening.
Right.
Why? Because we are fallible.
That's right.
We mess up. Yahweh knows that. But how do we teach our kids? I mean, I teach my kids the same way. I say, son, go do this. I know he might not get it right. But I'm there to help him along when he needs the help. I'm not going to hold him to this super high, ridiculous, perfect standard. But what I am going to do is take where he is and walk him to the next step.
Thank you, Father.
And when he gets that right, guess what I'm going to do, y'all? Walk him to the next step. When he gets that right, what am I going to do? Take him to the next step. To him, it's boring. To him, it just gets on his nerves. Y'all know I like my examples, so I'm gonna use another. So when I was 7th grade, I was trying to get on the drum line. And so I got on the drum line, I was playing cymbals. And I'm like, cymbals, this ain't fun. Yeah. Ching, nah, that ain't me. I'm like Mr. Hype. I know y'all can't tell now, but that was me. I'm like, look, I need something with some excitement. I need something that's fun. So I'm literally like, I want to play snare. First of all, I'm like this big. The snare is like that big. So I mean, it's covering half my body. It weighs about half my body weight. So the drum instructor was like, 2 things, you can do it. He said, 1, you got to be able to do 50 push-ups straight, non-stop, no breathing, no breaks, nothing. 50 push-ups, non-stop. And you got to be able to do a double stroke roll at my speed. Okay. I went home and practiced. Do y'all think I could do a double stroke roll in a week? No. It's the most boring thing in the world. Y'all want to know how he taught us how to do a double stroke roll? Literally, we said, mama, papa, mama, papa, mama, papa. I'm like, okay, I'm mama, papa it out. But he said, I'm telling you, don't stop. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. My dad had this little metronome thing, and I would take that, push the little button, and just go at it. Tap, 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 tap. By the time the second semester of school, the second half of school came around, I could do a double stroke roll at his speed. I could do my 50 push-ups, put a snare drum on me, and I was rolling. That was it. That's all she wrote. But how did I get there? I had to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Not realizing that every time I did it, I was getting a little better. A little better.
Come on.
Just a little better.
Come on.
Only that much better.
Hallelujah.
1 beat per second faster.
Come on.
But when I look back and I'm 50 beats per second faster than when I started, I may not have realized it throughout the journey. We can't get weary.
That's right.
In the Shabbat, to the next Shabbat, to the next Shabbat. Because guess what? We don't know when these Shabbat's going to happen.
That's right. That's right.
We can't get weary in keeping the feast. Feast season after feast season after feast season. It might get beyond our generations. It might not be me. It might not be my son. But if I don't train him, he won't be able to train his son.
That's right.
And somewhere down the line, I am uncovered, and I have uncovered my father. I have missed the opportunity because I let go just a little bit. Why? Bus ain't here yet. I'm tired of waiting. So it takes us. It's 2 things that I want y'all to get. 1, don't be weary. 2, we have to bring ourselves low. Eating is just part of it. This is a time when you look at you. It's not about her, him, or them, but you. He covered your sin. You have to accept that you did it. And we have to get back in line and walk righteously. I know it's not easy. I know it can get frustrating. I know it can get tiresome. I know at times it can be lonely. I know at times you can feel discouraged. I know at times that you can ask yourself, is this right? But I'm going to tell you this. The scriptures bear witness. The scriptures bear witness. And what does it say? It says at the trump that he will make his descent. And a whole lot of people are going to be looking for that. Because it's not a whole lot of people listening for the trump. But we got to stay on task, because then we know what comes next. And I want to share something with you that, in closing, that Rabbi shared with me last night. I asked him, I said, why eating? There's something about eating. Like, we don't completely and totally get it. I still don't completely and totally get it. I know that. But there's something about eating. The process of eating, think about it. The feast days are set around eating. The sacrificial system is set around what? Eating. The fall of man was due to what? Eating. There's something to this. And now somebody might say, oh, but he didn't eat. There was something else that happened. Listen. No matter what happened, what physically took place, the conduit, the vehicle that he used to explain it to us was eating. There's something special here that we've got to pay attention to. And so we began to talk, and he shared with me, he said, let's think about it like this. Eating is something that is universal. Every living object, every living creature eats. At least that I know of. Like, some of y'all might be aware of things that don't eat. But my grass dies when it don't get water. And I don't water my grass, so it dies every time it don't rain for a long time. Everything eats. Everything needs nourishment. And so this is now what sustains life. So now we go into a whole different sort of realm. It's not just putting food in your mouth. It's not just a cultural thing. But now this is something else. And so if you think about it, in this day when we afflict our being, we bring ourselves low, where we take ourselves out of the pleasures of life, out of those indulgements and things that we enjoy and love to do, we no longer indulge in those things, but we afflict. We bring ourselves low. We do those things. There's some things that I do to get away my mind. You know, like I'll just sit down to my keyboard and I can play for hours. It takes my mind, whether I'm stressed out or a lot going on, or sometimes my mind just won't stop going. But that's a pleasure I'm not gonna indulge in during this time. Why? Because it takes my focus off of what's happening right now. Yahweh's dealing with me, and I don't need anything to mask it.
Right.
You understand that that's what's happening, right?
Father.
Yahweh's dealing with each and every one of us, and he doesn't want anything there to mask it.
Yes. Hallelujah.
And your growling stomach is just a reminder. That's all
right.
that is.
That's right.
That every time you think that, oh, well, this is a regular day. Oh, man, I'm hungry. Oh, I can't eat. Why? Atonement.
Thank you, Father. Yes.
It's just a nudge and a reminder of what's happening right now. Yahweh dealing with you.
Hallelujah.
Not the fact that you want to blame someone else for something, but you. That he wants us to face those things. Why? Because that's what he said. He says that with the scapegoat, he said, now you look at that goat and you pronounce the sins on the goat, and then you send it out to Azazel.
Hallelujah.
Face it.
Right.
Pronounce it. What did we read that the priest did? It says that they first confessed their sins. Then they confessed the sins of all of Israel. As they came before Yahweh to make those offerings. And they would go into that set apart place during that time. That's a special thing. And I'm going to share one other thing, and then we're going to close out. In the conversation as well, as we sat, Rabbi shared a story with me. And it really touched me, and I want to share this with you as he shared it with me and with us that were there. He said he was cutting his grass, and he's pushing the lawnmower down. And he sees, was it a cricket? A cricket. And this cricket, crickets jump, right? So it's jumping, and it's jumping over there. And then it jumps in the line of the lawnmower. Now, even before the mower gets to where it's going, there's turbulence. There's wind. I mean, if you that big, that's probably a tornado for them.
Right.
I mean, tornado. And so here you have all of this turbulence that's happening. And he said he can almost see the panic of this cricket. And as he's pushing, he jumps right in front of it. And his mind goes to, you got two choices. This cricket has two choices. Because the lawnmower blade is high enough, cricket is that big. He says, if you would just hold on to your position through the turbulence, through the wind, and this is the key, not do what comes natural. What comes natural to that cricket? Jump. What's going to happen if he's under the lawnmower and he jumps? Yeah. So when I was a kid, all of our cartoons used to say that you were going to get blown to smithereens. That's what would happen to that cricket. Smithereens. G.I. Joe, He-Man, don't make me go down the list, y'all. I'm an 80s kid. And so, that's what we're doing. We are being trained not to do what comes natural. What comes natural to us? Sin. We're being trained out of sin. So we've got to let Yahweh do his work so that when it comes time, we're covered, we're in the right place at the right time for the right reason. It won't matter our little discrepancies here or there, or you think that, or you say it that way, or you think this way. But guess what? If we are in one accord on this fact, obedience to Yahweh's word, we're going to end up in the same place eventually. I promise you that. I promise you. We're going to work through until we get through.
Hallelujah. Yes.
So what are the two things that I want y'all to get? Number one, don't get weary in your well-doing. Shabbat after Shabbat after Shabbat after Shabbat.
Yes.
You got to approach this thing like that's your first Shabbat ever.
That's right. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Feast season after Passover, after Yom Teruah, after Yom Kippur, after feast, every feast, y'all. That could be the one.
That could be.
That's how you approach it.
Absolutely.
Don't get weary in your well-doing.
Thank you.
Focus.
Yes.
Focus, y'all. He cut the time short. We only got 5 more days.
Hallelujah.
We got 5 more days. Tabernacles is here. He gave us something to hold on to.
Yes.
Y'all, let's be Jiminy Cricket and hold on to that grass, that blade of grass. Hold on to it. He gave us something to hold on to. They're coming. Every time you get to a new one, it's getting you closer. What's the second thing that I want y'all to get out of this?
Bring yourself to love.
Bring yourself love. We afflict our being, our mind, our nefesh, our soul. Why? So that we can be covered by the Most High. Amen.
They that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles.